Hello everyone, thank you for joining me. Today I am bringing you a 3D project with a bonus card as well. So the project that we're going to be making today is this one. So it's a cute kind of trapezium shaped box. But it's 3D, so it's probably trapezoid. Not sure. Somebody can tell me, I'm sure, in the comments. So we're going to be making one of these, and I'm going to be using the Impressions Abloom bundle and the Floral Impressions Designer Series paper, which is coming on the 6th of May as part of the new online exclusives. So the bundle is a stamp set and dies. These dies are amazing, and I have done some die cutting ahead of time. And I'm going to be using my die cuts on my card, which will be the sort of second project. So there's our stamp set. I'm actually only using the sentiments from the stamp set today, and then some of the die cut florals. And then let me show you this lovely paper. So this is the Floral Impressions Designer Series paper. The colours that are featured are Crushed Curry, Darling Duckling, Fresh Freesia, Garden Green, Misty Moonlight, Old Olive, Peach Pie, Pecan Pie, Pool Party, Pretty in Pink and Strawberry Slush. So if you don't recognise the names Darling Duckling and Strawberry Slush, that will be because they are the new in colours for 2025 to 2027. So I really love this kind of rainbow, and it gives you kind of a little hint as to some of the patterns that feature sort of further on in the set. So we've got this lovely rainbow of florals with a yellow check on the reverse, and then we have this beautiful floral with some Fresh Freesia sort of stripy kind of pattern. Then we have got this lovely leafy pattern with some yellow florals, and then on the reverse is that lovely kind of dotty circles. Then we have this kind of sunflowery design with garden green, are they hexagons or octagons? Octagons on the back, octagons on squares. This lovely bright kind of pinky purple floral with this cute kind of trio motif on the reverse, and then this lovely Misty Moonlight and Fresh Freesia floral with an Old Olive kind of stripes and dots pattern on the reverse. And this is actually the paper that I'm going to be using today. So let's just pop those to one side. So I've got a piece here that I'm going to be using. So I'm going to be using some of the Designer Series paper and a sheet of Night of Navy cardstock. Just going to grab my trimmer, because that is the one thing that I had not grabbed ahead of time. So for our Designer Series paper, you're going to want to cut it a particular way. So we'll do the Designer Series paper first, and then we'll do the cardstock. So the first cut, so this is my 12-inch length, and then I'm going to cut that at 2 3/4 inches. And then the rest of that paper we don't need. So I'm going to pop that to one side. So this is then a strip that is 2 3/4 by 12 inches. So I'm going to rotate it, and I'm going to cut 2 strips that are 1 3/4 inches long. 1, 2. Okay, so that's my first 2 pieces. Then I'm going to rotate my paper, and I'm going to cut it down to 2 1/4 inches. So you're going to want to keep hold of that. We'll use that again in a second. Then this piece I'm going to rotate, and I'm going to cut 1 7/8 twice. Like so. And then this piece we're going to keep hold of because we're going to use that for our card. And then this strip that we cut, we're going to cut 2 lengths that are 2 1/4 inches. Like so. And then the strip that we have left over, I'm going to pop with that other strip because we're going to use both of those on our card a little bit later. So those are our pieces of designer series paper, so you should have 6 pieces. And then I'm going to bring back in my cardstock. So we're going to cut our cardstock down to be 6.5 by 10 1/4. So I'm going to cut first at 6.5 and then rotate and cut at 10 1/4. So we're going to keep those strips. We're going to use some of that with our card. Okay, then we've got some scoring to do. So on the long side, so with the long side at the top of your trimmer, we are going to score at 3/4 inch, then at 1.5 inches, then at 3 5/8, then at 6 5/8, at 8 3/4, and 9 1/2. Then on the short side, we're going to score at 2 inches, and then again at 4.5 inches. And then we can pop the trimmer to one side. Okay, so now we're left with a piece of cardstock that is scored like so. So I'm going to fold the score lines that are on the short side first. So I'm just going to fold into the centre. And then the score lines on our long side, the outermost score lines on both sides, we're going to fold the opposite way, like that. And then that piece like that. And then all our other score lines are going to fold inwards, like that. So what you should end up with is a shape that looks like that. Okay, then we've got some bits to cut away. So I'm going to grab my scissors, and it's really easy because it's exactly the same on all 4 corners, and you're going to cut away these 3 outer sections. So all 4 corners are the same. So we're cutting away those 3 sections each time. Keeping that centre section. And then the last one, actually I need to tidy that edge up a little bit. Okay. So you should be left with a piece that looks like that. Okay, so now you're going to want a ruler and a pen or a pencil. I'm using an erasable pen, and then I can just rub out my little score marks. So on these outer flaps, I'm going to measure 3/4 of an inch on that outside edge and just pop a little mark there. And then the same on the other side at 3/4 of an inch. And then while I've got my pen and my ruler handy, I'm going to bring in the two longest pieces. So these are the pieces that are 2 3/4 by 1 3/4, and on one of the 2 3/4 edges, just on one edge, we're going to mark at 3/4 of an inch from each side, like that. And then I'm going to do the same on the other piece. So mark at 3/4 from each side. So you're actually marking at 3/4 of an inch and at 2 inches. And then I'm going to take my ruler and I'm going to go from that little mark that I just made across to the opposite corner, like that. And the reason that I'm doing the line like this is because I want to be able to cut with my snips rather than my trimmer, because when I did this with my trimmer I hadn't quite got it lined up properly, and then my final piece wasn't quite the right size. Now it's entirely up to you, you can do it with your trimmer if you prefer, but I'm gonna use my snips, which is why I'm using the erasable pen, because if I have any pen line left I can just rub it out. So there's that, and then I'm still going to want my ruler, and you're going to want a scoring tool or your bone folder, and we are going to score on our cardstock from that little mark we made across to the corner, and we're going to do that 4 times. There's 1. Ooh, there's my score mark. Sorry if I got my head in the way then. I might have just knocked the camera with my head instead. And then same again on the other side. So score mark, or pen mark I should say, not score mark, and then I'm going to score across from 1 and that 1. Okay, then I'm going to burnish those diagonals because they are going to be folds. There we go. Ooh, sliding around everywhere. Should have used my scoring tool. There we go. And then second one I just hadn't quite pressed down hard enough, I think, with the bone folder. There we go. Okay, so now we have got our piece of cardstock ready to go. I am at this point, before I stick anything on, I'm going to deal with my corners and make my ribbon hole. Now there are a number of different ways that you could do this. If you've got a corner rounder, you could round the corners. If you haven't got a corner rounder, what you can do is just measure in 1/2 inch from each side and then just chop off the corner, which is what I did on this one. So I just cut the corner and then used a tiny hole punch to make some holes. On this one I used this trio punch, so I made my edges, my corners fancy, and then used this to make my ribbon hole. For this one I'm going to use this punch, Sadly, both of the trio punches are retired. However, what you could do to make the whole is you could use the new hole punch assortment. That's a bit of a mouthful. There is a trio of punches that make different holes. And then you could either cut off a diagonal, or you could draw around a curved item. Like you could bring in your roll of ribbon and just draw around the curve and cut round it. Whatever you want to do. But I'm going to use my corner rounder from this punch. And I'm just going to round those two and those two. And then for my ribbon hole, I'm actually going to use the slit from the other trio punch. So I want to bring my edges together because I want to aim to have them line up. I don't know how well you're going to be able to see that on camera. It's not going to be perfect, but we're aiming for close to each other. It's extra. Needed a bit of extra force because I was going through two pieces of cardstock at the same time. There we go. Okay, so now we can trim our trapezium shaped designer series paper. So I'm just going to cut along that line all the way along. Ooh. There we go. And then I'm going to do the same on the other side. And then let me take runners on my other desk, so I will grab that in just a second. But you could use Tombow, you can use Tear tape, glue dots, whatever adhesive you like. I like Stamp and Seal the best. So that is exactly what I'm going to use. So now we just stick on our pieces of designer series paper. Now I'm not putting any paper on the bottom of my box, and I haven't actually put anything on the inside either, but you could if you wanted to. So if you wanted to decorate the inside of your box, you would just need to cut the same pieces again, and then you would want a piece for the base, which I will measure in just a second. There we go. So yeah, so you'd want the same again, so you would cut your trapezium shapes in the same way, and then you would want a piece of designer series paper that measures 2 1/4 by 2 3/4, which would be your piece to stick on the base. If you wanted to decorate the inside as well. So there we go. Like that. Nice even border all the way around, and then the same goes for our two little strips. It should be nice and obvious where your bits of paper go. Because they will only fit where they're destined for. There we go. And then to put our little box together, just going to add some adhesive on these triangle pieces, and then we're just going to tuck it in, and then we're going to bring those edges up together and give it a squidge. And then the same again on the other side. So lining those edges up and giving it a squidge, and then the same on the other side. There we go. And that is our little box, and then I'm going to tie that up with some of this absolutely gorgeous gold striped ribbon. I love this ribbon. This is coming on the 6th of May. It's so pretty. And then you've got a cute little gift box that you could put anything in you like. Well, as long as it fits, obviously. I made some, we had a team gathering last week and I made them for the girls and put some little Easter treats in. So there is our little box, and you could leave it like that. You could add embellishments if you wanted to, you could pop a sentiment on there, but I think that paper is so beautiful I don't want to cover it up, so I'm going to leave my box like that. And then we're going to make a card that coordinates. So I've got a standard card base here, so this is half a sheet of A4, scored at 10.5 centimetres. Then I'm going to bring in my leftover bits from my strip of designer series paper and the long strip of cardstock left over. And I am going to want my trimmer because I'm just going to trim that down. Whoops. There we go. So I'm going to trim that down to be 5.25 inches. Or you could do 13.5 centimetres if you work in centimetres. And then I'm going to pop some adhesive on the back of there. And I'm going to pop that down like that. And then this piece goes on next, like so. And then this piece I'm going to use the green side. There we go. I'm going to put that across there like that. And then, as I said at the start, I have die cut some pieces. So I've got some flowers, some flower centres, some leaves, and then some little dinky flowers. And I did bring across some Stampin' Up markers. I've got the Blackberry Bliss and the Berry Burst here. So I thought what I would do is take the Blackberry Bliss to do my flower centres. So I've cut these all out in Fresh Freesia. So Fresh Freesia is the purple colour, and then Old Olive is the colour that I've used for my leaves. And then I'm just going to colour straight over the top with my Blackberry Bliss. Sorry, when I put my hand there, it's probably right in the way. So there is our flower and flower centre. And then I'm going to do the same for the smaller one. There we go. So there's those two ready. And then for our teeny weeny little flowers, I am going to colour those in Berry Burst. Or at least add some definition in the centre with some Berry Burst. I think we'll just colour over them. It's cute. And I'm probably not going to use all of these. And we'll use some leaves as well, but I am going to just leave the leaves as they are. Here we go. So I've coloured 4, I reckon that'll be enough. Okay. So for my sentiment, I am going to do Thanks for Being There, which is from the Impressions Abloom stamp set, and I am going to stamp that onto some basic white. Just seeing if I've got a scrap handy, which I do not. So I'm just pulling a whole sheet. So I'm going to pop my little bits and bobs back in the bowl just for a minute while I sort out my sentiment. Otherwise I'll lose them. And I'm going to stamp my sentiment in Blackberry Bliss ink, which I've got here. And just stamp. Thanks for being there. Actually, that's come out really well, even though I didn't use my matte, although I do kind of like the idea of having... No, let's go with that. Let's go with that. And then I'm going to trim them out with my snips. Let's close the ink pad before I put my hand in it. And then just drop that off there. And then I'm going to trim around it. And I think I'm going to separate my thanks and my for being there. That's not very straight. Let's try again. There we go, that's better. So we've got for being there, and then just do a quick wiggle cut around my thanks. Nearly there. And then I think I'm gonna stamp my I appreciate you so very much on the inside of my card. There we go, so I've got my thanks for being there. And then let's play with some placement. What I might do actually is separate my words. There we go. Okay, then my flowers. So I'm going to pop together my flowers that have got centres. Let's put the centres on. There's one and two. Whoops. There we go. So I'm thinking a couple of florals with some leaves. Like that. And then maybe just using the little flowers like embellishments. But let's get my floral arrangement stuck down. So I'm going to pop my flowers up on some dimensionals. And I've got some of here. Ooh, there we go. So I'm just going to put one large dimensional or standard dimensional in the back of each one, and then we'll pop the little one there, the big flower there. and I'm okay with them kind of overlapping a little bit, just sort of making my arrangement look like an arrangement. You know, when you think of kind of like a bunch of flowers, the flowers cross over and things, don't they? Whoa, that's way too much glue. And then we're going to pop in our leaves. So I'm just going to stick my leaves down flat. Like so. Whoa! That one wanted to go on an adventure. And then number 4. Just put that in there like that. Okay. Just get rid of that little bit of glue. A little bit of glue where I didn't want it. No match for the adhesive eraser. There we go. Okay, and then we've got thanks for being there. And I'm going to kind of purposefully do them a little bit wonky. Like that. And then let's pop it up on some dimensional. This would be a great way to use some of the foam strips for kind of narrow bits like that. I'm just going to trim a little bit more off the top of my being and my 4, just because I feel like there's a little bit too much white space. And then again, I'm going to use dimensional to pop those bits up. Being there. Oh, that one's a little bit too long. Just trim that down. There we go. Take the back off. Nearly lost my there then. Right. Thanks for being there. And then I do want a couple of these little flowers. Maybe we'll pop them around our sentiment, like little embellishments. And I'm just going to stick those down with some glue dots. There's 1, 2, and ooh, missed 3. There we go. And then I'm just going to stamp. So I've still got some of those little tiddly flowers and then that set of leaves. And then I'm just going to stamp the I appreciate you so much on the inside. I appreciate you so very much. There we go. And then I'm just going to pop that other little flower down there in the corner. Yeah. There we have it. So we've got a cute little gift box and a coordinating card. So I hope you've enjoyed the projects today. The Impressions Abloom is just so pretty, and I'm sure that you will love it just as much as I do. I will be playing with this set a lot in the coming months, and actually it is the suite of products that I am going to be using for my June classes. So for June we will be using the Impressions Abloom suite of products. So I'm excited to bring you some more projects with it. But that's it from me for now. Just a little reminder actually before I shoot off. The last chance list, if you've got anything that you've got your eye on the last chance list, get it now, don't wait, because when it's gone, it's gone. And there's some fabulous products on there with some great discounts, so you won't want to miss out. My latest blog post has gone up, so there's another new post for you to have a read of. My competition is still active on my first blog post, so if you complete the request and answer the question in the comments, you'll be in with a chance to win. So yeah, that's it from me today. All the products that I have used in today's video will be available from the 6th of May. They are not currently available, but when they are available, I will link them in the description box below, which is also where you will find how to shop with me if you want to join my team, and also the link to my website for if you want to book on to any of my classes and retreats. Thanks so much for watching. Take care. Bye.